But I walk around. I can't sit still. And the reason why I can't sit still is because, you know, heard that song a little bit ago about a dead man walking? Well, I'm one of those dead men that's walking. And if you had somebody that was dead and come back to life, let me tell you what, they will have something special on their life. I promise you. Because I was dead once. I was dead for about 3 hours. Yeah, they say you come back with brain damage. Everybody but my wife agrees that I don't. She'll tell you about the damage. Anyways, I live in a little town called Murfreesboro. And it's really nice. It's quiet, or was. But it's growing. It's growing real fast. But I have to tell you something. When I came in the doors here this morning, it was like, oh, I'm back home. It's really nice to find a place, because I travel a lot. Last year during 2020, COVID, I did 128,000 miles in the U.S. Through the air, okay? I could drive that fast, but preaching would be short. So, I mean, God has just been moving. So many things are happening. I wrote a book. It's called A Journey to Hell, Heaven, and Back. There's going to be some copies of it in the back there. This is a good part of my testimony. There's more coming later on, probably later this year should be the second book coming out. But this is the one that's going to give you the idea of what I went through. It'll tell you things about my past, my childhood, and everything. And I have a question. Anybody have a birth date of November 13th? Is in here? Who has a birthday in November? Quick, let's just see your hands. Okay, who's November 11? Like 7? Keep going. 9? I give up. What's your birthday? You don't get it. What's yours? What is it? We'll give it to you. You were closer than that. Got to give one away. There'll be some other ones out there. They're I think they're $15 or something, but they'll arrange something for you. I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you can find out. I'm about as human as they get. I'm no different than anybody sitting in here. And what you're going to find out is there's some things coming for you folks. You guys are going to be a part of something that this world has never seen before. And I mean it. Because every place I'm going to this year, it's a divine appointment that God has established for you and for me. So I'm here this morning because I'm going to be giving you my testimony to start with, because you need to hear this. You need to hear what happened to me. I was a young boy, and as a young boy, I loved the Lord. I did everything. Every Sunday morning, I couldn't wait to go to church. Sunday evening, couldn't wait to go to church. Wednesday evening, couldn't wait to go to church. Then when I became a teenager, well, actually, let me do it at 12, I got to belong to the youth group, so I'd go Friday nights. And I couldn't wait. I'm telling you, man, it was just something, there was an excitement that was happening back then. I was speaking in tongues at a very young age. Got saved at a very young age. I just couldn't wait to follow the Lord. That's all I wanted. He was my place that I could go to. I could speak to Jesus at any time. I played in the woods. Now, I grew up in the city, but I had woods behind my house. And I loved it, man. I'd play out there in the woods. I just had a blast all the time. You know, I was just one of those kids. My dad was a bricklayer. Now, I know this is going to be hard for some of y'all to believe, but I used to be skinny, okay? I'd turn sideways and completely disappear. You know, I didn't have to stand behind anything. Like, let's play hide and seek. Okay. I was that skinny. But I was strong and wiry, you know. My dad being a bricklayer, I did a lot of work. From the time I was 7 years old on, I worked almost all summer. And that's the kind of life I grew up. But I love God. I went to high school, got out of high school. We couldn't afford, my dad had a heart attack when I was 14. He couldn't work anymore. 5 kids, dad can't work. So I started working at the NCO Club at Andrews Air Force Base, washing dishes. I'm really good at it. Was. I keep telling my wife, I think I'm allergic to that stuff. You know, I was around it so much. It's like Agent Orange to me. So I just didn't like it. Anyways, I did that, and I decided I wanted to go to Bible college. But I couldn't afford it. You know, That's a lot of money to go to college. Well, there's this little place up in Brookline, Maine, right on the coast, and it's called Faith School of Theology. And at Faith School of Theology, you could come there and you could work on their farm. Remember, I'm from the city. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. My first assignment was cleaning out stalls. Because the church, or not the church, the college inherited a dairy farm that nobody had touched for a couple of years. Yeah, we all got dysentery cleaning that stuff out. It was bad. And they only had an outhouse, so it was worse. But, I had to learn how to do this. Now, y'all probably would appreciate this. I don't know if anybody in here know anything about electric fence? I didn't. So we put up I forgot how many acres of electric fence, and it was across the highway, because not a highway, it was a road that ran between the pasture area. And we put this electric fence up, and they're talking and say, hey, has anybody done electric fence? And I'm like, no, never have. Oh, all right. Hey, listen, we want your help to test it. Sure. Oh, no, it's not what you think, okay? It has nothing to do with water. So anyways, they had me put this stalk of wheat, piece of grass real long, in between my teeth. They said, now listen, your teeth acts like an insulator so it won't hurt you. And what we want you to do is when we tell you to, you take it and tap it on there, and if you see it spark, we know the fence is doing good. So the other 10 or 15 guys are back across the road saying, we're trying to hook it up. Just stay there, wait. All right, and I'm just waiting. I'm holding my head up high, make sure I don't touch the fence. And then I could hear him coming across the road, and somebody says, we're just coming to wait and see. All right, go ahead and try it. Bzz. I mean to tell you, your teeth are not insulators. Neither is your tongue, eyeballs. Woo! I heard strange sounds. When that happens to you, you don't just hear, you hear, and I turned around and I looked as I was falling down to the ground. Everybody's falling down to the ground too, but they're dying laughing. So I learned real quick about electric fence. And I've been hoping one day I can do that to somebody else, but I just haven't had the chance to do it yet. So next time you guys get a city slicker out here, can we go do that? I'll come and visit just for that. So anyways, I went to Bible college. I had a blast there. I got to speak. I got to do some things. Now, I was so shy back then. You put me up in front of a group of people, and I just about wet my britches. I was like, I got to speak. I tried to do a sermon, and all I did was tap my foot, and it was a platform like this, but it was empty and solid wood and had little vents on it. So all they heard was from my feet tapping because I was nervous. But it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just talk about Jesus. I wanted to read things out of the Bible. Now, for everybody here that's religious, I need to do something real quick. John 3:16. I got to do one Bible verse. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay, we got the religious section out. So, because religion was made by man. Praise and worship was made in heaven. I'll explain that later. So I went there. I love God. I thought, this is what I want to do. I'm going to learn. No matter what, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do it. And then after a year, it was great. Went home during the summer. Man, I just stayed good, working hard, doing stuff. Come back in the spring, or come back in the fall, and things are going great. Man, I'm on fire for God. I'm just having a blast. Holy Spirit's just flowing all day, every day. Everything's going good. Then Christmas came around. And we had a Christmas break, because Thanksgiving I couldn't afford to go home. I lived in Maryland, and this was up in Maine. So then I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. I just stayed up there, had a blast, preached at some church. It was fun. Christmas came around. I got to go home for Christmas. And I get home, and I go in the store, and there's this really, really pretty girl that works behind the counter. She was just drop dead gorgeous. And she spoke to me. That was a shock. And we actually got along. She was cute. And we went out to get something to eat on her break. I never went back to college. I won't tell you the rest of it. You can figure that out on your own. But I didn't go back to college. I thought I was in love. You see, I was such an innocent person. At 19 years of age, I was extremely innocent. I was like what a 9-year-old is today, okay? Really completely innocent. And just loved God. Well, this girl, she knew a lot of things I didn't know. And I didn't go back to college. I didn't realize how it sneaks up on you, how backsliding sneaks up on you. But it snuck up on me, little by little by little. And then I turned 21. Man, I had to go out and drink. I had never touched a drop of alcohol. Nothing. I was still, in my mind, a good person. I wasn't going to do those things. I started drinking. That first night I went out on my 21st birthday, I was drinking something called Harvey Wallbangers. Somebody say something? I was trying, they said, well, you can drink 21 of those on your 21st birthday. I didn't get that far. Then some girl wanted a ride home. I said, I'll give you a ride home. I don't know how we got there. And then she introduced me to pot, something called Acapulco Gold back then. So I started smoking some pot with her. Man, this was great stuff. I was hallucinating off a pot. That's how lightweight I was. I saw the guy with a saxophone in the speaker, you know. It was bad. And then I found out there's other stuff out there. And then I found out I was good at sales, so I got into sales. And I was working for car dealerships. And then I found out that I could buy drugs, deal drugs, and make money there too. So back in the 70s, I'm making over $100,000 a year selling cars. I was selling more cars than some dealerships were selling by myself. I was doing great. You know what I found out? If you don't lie to people, they'll buy what you got. If you don't lie to them and you tell them, I know I was living a crazy life, but I learned if you don't lie to people, you tell them the truth, you find something that they need and want, they'll get it from you as long as you treat them with respect. And that's what I did. I sold a ton of cars. People couldn't figure out how I was selling so many. And then I found out the same thing works with drugs. And I was selling drugs. And I slipped away from God. I mean, I was using, selling, I was whatever. Thursday night came, it was ladies' night. Now, I don't think anybody in here has ever done disco dancing, have they? Oh, you're laughing. I used to disco dance, and I was good at it. You know those platform shoes you guys make fun of nowadays? That's not the heel, that's the front, the sole. Then the heel was about that long. And a big bill. I was 6'6" by the time I got done putting them on. That made cowboy boots look real tiny. I wore those white flared pants. Hip huggers. I had a hip back then, you know, something to hug on. So I had hip huggers. And this is what I did. And I was good. Tell you how good I was. I only had to get up there one time and ask one girl to dance in a club. And I didn't have to ask anybody the rest of the night because they'd come up and ask me. Yeah, that's hard to believe, but I really would. I mean, listen, I used to wear shirts that were unbuttoned down to here because this wasn't there. This was up here. It fell. But I had fun, I thought. And I would stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. I never, even to this day, even as a child, that's the way I was. It wasn't just partying, it's my nature to stay up that late and then get up early in the morning and go. That was before drugs. And then drugs enhanced it. So I did these things. And I'm sitting there, and I'm at this nightclub one night, and I'm like, man, my leg's starting to bother me. The left calf was really bugging me. And I'm like, man, what's going on? It was killing me. And I started wondering, what is this? And I kept trying to go and trying to go and trying to go. And it just kept going, kept bothering me. So finally I went to a doctor. I can remember this little doctor. I think he's from Poland or something with his accent. And he brought me in there, and he looked at my leg and everything, and I can't do his accent, but he was like, well, he says, I think you have thrombophlebitis. I'm 26 years of age. I've never heard of thrombone before. I thought I had some kind of trombone problem where my leg was expanding and contracting. I had no idea, and he tried to explain to me there's a blood clot. It's a deep vein blood clot, and he says that's what it looks like. And all I could think of is that my grandfather would get those, and that's for old people. Young people don't get blood clots. It's impossible. That's just for old people because they sit around and do nothing all day, and they just sit there and the blood doesn't go. So I told the doctor he was crazy. He got up and left his office. He tried to warn me not to. Not too long afterwards, a few days later, I'm in the emergency room because my leg is swollen up so bad it looks like my thigh. It was getting bad, and it hurt like you wouldn't believe. So I went in there. Now, when I was 12 years old, I had something wrong with my kidneys, and they gave me something called IVP dye. It has iodine in it. And what it did is it messed me up, and I can't take anything like that because it'll kill me. So they did something called a radioactive retrograde uptake. And you have to be sober to say that word. Radioactive retrograde uptake. I'm the first person they ever did it to, where they inject this radioactive material in you. I was afraid it was going to glow in the dark or something. But they put it in you, and then they put this big round thing over top of you when you're laying on the bed, and they're watching, I guess, the radioactive stuff going through, and it wasn't going through that leg at all. So they said, you have a major blood clot, do not move. They came and picked me up off of that. They wouldn't even let me get over the edge to get into a wheelchair. They just slid me over into this bed, took me to another room, slid me over into that bed. Now, I'm 26 years old. I was a little vain, and they put a stocking on my good leg, and bad leg didn't have it. So here I am laying in a bed with a stocking on. I was not going to let anybody come visit me like that. I had to stay in that hospital for about 10 days. I had a terrible blood clot. It was really bad. Finally, they said, and they kept sticking needles in you with nothing in them. They were taken from you. And so they're doing this to me, and they're taking all my blood. You're checking it, and they said, you know what? You're good enough to go home. Your blood's thin enough. You're great. You're going to go home. So I went home that night, but before I went home, they didn't have these things back then. They had those things attached to the wall. Remember those? You know how you knew you were successful in life? Is when you had one of those cords that you could take 25 feet away and talk on it. You could go into a closet and close the door, talk in private. You could do something like that. And then when you get done, you could walk it right back and hang it up. They even had the little thing where you dial it and go. Well, I had to borrow the phone from the nurse's station. And they had to dial it for me to make sure it wasn't a long-distance call. They had to dial a 9 first to get out, and then the phone number. And I was lucky enough, I actually remembered a girl's phone number, because back then I didn't want to know your name. I didn't want to know anything. But this girl, I remembered her name and her phone number. So they called her up, and I said, hey, listen, can you come over? I'm getting out of the hospital. I need somebody to fix me something to eat. I was playing the sympathy card. None of the guys in here has ever done that, have you? Like, I got a cold. I'm going to die. I was feeling great. But anyway, she came over and she brought some beer, I think, or something. And the first thing I did when I got home was I had to light up a joint. That's the first thing I had to do. I had to start smoking some pot. Because I had been 10 days so straight, it was ridiculous. It's like I didn't even know I could live like that. I didn't know that's how bad I was messed up with stuff. I didn't do any coke that night or anything else. I just had to smoke some pot. Tried to drink some of the beer, and it didn't taste good. I just put it down. Didn't care for it. And then about 9 o'clock, and this never even to this day, it's super rare if I ever do this. But at 9 o'clock, I looked at her and I said, I'm sorry, I gotta go to bed. I just don't feel good. I feel tired or something. And I went to bed. Now, I don't know if anybody here remembers free flotation water beds. You had one too, huh? I wish they still had them, man. I'd put my foot at the end of the bed and just kind of rock myself to sleep at night. It was nice. Those things were great. But I had something called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, where my heart muscles were thickening. My dad died at 56 from it. My oldest sister died at 56 from it. Everybody in the family dies at an early age from it. My brother has it. He's not quite 56 yet. I do have a sister that's lived longer than that. She's 73, but she can't do anything. She's really bound to the house. She hasn't been able to do anything for a number of years. Everybody in the family, let me tell you who has it. My father had it. His mother had it. My father had it. His sister had it. His brother had it. Everybody had it. All of his kids had it. All of their kids had it. All of the grandkids, the kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, everybody has it. It does not skip anybody, does not skip a generation, nothing. The marker to find it in the genetic study was done in our family. That's how hereditary it is. So I knew I had a little problem with my heart, so what I was told is if I lay on my left side at night, it helps the heart beat better and the blood flow better because that muscle was thicker on the left side. Just relax and sleep on that side so there's no pressure on it. So that's what I do. And about a couple of minutes after I fell asleep, and I went, before my head hit the pillow, I'm like, oh man, I went out. All of a sudden, something came by and grabbed a hold of my left wrist and yanked me up out of the bed. Now, I used to be like some of you guys in here where I was in really good shape. And if I hit you once, it was over. I took martial arts for about 14 years, so I knew how to punch. I knew what to do. And I'm swinging and I'm hitting this. This thing was hideous. It was ugly. And it had a hold of me, and I'm trying to punch it. I'm trying to get rid of it. I had zero effect on it whatsoever. And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on here? Oh, this has got to be a nightmare. So I tried to reach and put my hand through the, to flip on the light switch because I'm thinking, if I just turn the light on, it'll go away. Had one of those dreams before? That's what I thought was going on. My hand went right through the wall. As soon as it did, I'm like, what? And I turn around and look, and I'm still in the bed. Instantly. This is what happens when you leave your body. Your spirit knows everything. Instantly, my spirit knew I was dead, and my spirit knew where I was going. That's me. That's who I was, my spirit. I knew that I was going straight to hell, and that's where I was heading at. And this demon just laughed at me, thought it was the funniest thing that I fell for every trick in the book, that I didn't stay with the Lord, and he made fun of me, and he's taking me along, and boom, we're moving so fast. And we're in hell, and it's hot. Now, I did not see flames. I tell everybody that. I didn't see any fire, but it was hot. It was hotter than Phoenix in the summer. I used to live there. The smell was so gross. I mean, burning flesh smells pretty compared to what that smells like there. It's just such a horrible odor. And the screams are something like you've never heard before. You've never heard people sound like that. Not on earth. You can't imagine what it sounds like. They're screaming because there's no hope. And here's the thing, that the saddest thing in the world is every time you go past anybody, you knew everything about their life. Everything. You knew what they did from the day they were born to the day that they died and why they were in hell. And there's people in hell, you wouldn't believe some of the people in hell. Did you know there's pastors in hell? Evangelists in hell? What we call good people in hell? And there's a lot of bad people that we knew were going there too. There's people in hell. There's an 18-year-old girl that was in hell. She was there because nobody introduced her to Jesus. She went to Sunday school a couple of times in her life with some friends as a little kid, but her parents were just those good people. They weren't bad. She was coming home from college during a Thanksgiving break and got hit by a drunk driver. She was in the hospital on life support, and her parents had that decision to disconnect her. And she could remember her parents, which never believed in God, were trying to pray, but they didn't know they had to lead her to the Lord even when she was in a coma. So she didn't know, and she went to hell. This happens, and this is something you need to understand. If you don't have that personal relationship where you give your life to Jesus and you accept him and you accept the fact that he died on the cross to forgive you of your sins and that he is the Son of God, you will go to hell. It's the way it is. And you can say, well, God's cruel. No, he's not. He sent his son. He's given us every opportunity in the world not to go there. But we're not puppets. We don't have strings attached that move us around and tell us what to do. We have free will. The same way that Jesus stands at the door and knocks, and he wants us to open it up and let him in. Did you know the demonic does the same thing? But the demonic doesn't knock. It just kind of, hey, buddy. But the problem is, they can't come in unless you open that door for them. I saw this in hell. I watched what happened. I saw these people. I knew everything that was going on. These demons were torturing these people. And let me tell you, there's nothing. You can't get out of hell. Once you're in hell, it's over with. Once you're dead, it's over with very few exceptions ever. And don't think you're going to be one of them, because I didn't think I was either. It was very, very rare. I'm like 1 in 500 billion that will ever go through what I went through. Or maybe the only person. I don't know. But I can tell you this, that when you're in hell, it's so final. If you were to jump out of an airplane at 15,000 feet up here on the earth without a parachute, and there's nothing but rock and concrete where you're going to land, no matter where you land, and you're going to land on your head first, you have more hope that you're going to be able to get up and walk away from that than you do when you're in hell. Does that kind of give you a picture? In other words, there's no hope. You have zero hope of getting out of that. Zero. You're done. Eternity, in fact, if you look at eternity, 100 million years, or 100 billion years, let's go a little bigger, is less than a tenth of a second in eternity. See, we can think of 100 billion, but we can't think of what eternity is. So the perspective is that's nothing. That's not even a click of a finger. Because eternity means never ending. And you're in hell. And I knew this demon was taking me. I'm seeing all these people, and it's like there's something around them. You can't see anything on them, but there's something on them, and they can move their hands and their arms and their feet, but they can't go anywhere. They're just stuck for eternity, being tortured, and it's horrible. It's terrible. And his demon's laughing at me, and he thinks it's so funny. I didn't think it was funny. I just kept thinking, God, what did I do that was so bad? I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't kill anybody. Why did you send me to hell? And I'm thinking all of this like, oh, man. And this demon's ready to take and put me where I'm supposed to be. Then a voice rang out. And it said, it's not his time. You must let him go. I made a promise to his mother. Instantly, I was let go. This demon that I couldn't do anything to, when he heard that voice, he cowered down, he shook, and he let me go. And the next thing you know, I was right there at the gates of heaven. Now I want to explain something real quick before I go any further. You need to know this. How many mothers do we have in here? And grandmothers? Can you raise your hand? Okay. I saw a couple guys raising. No. Let me tell you something. Never, ever, 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 ever stop praying for your children. Never. My mother prayed for me from the day I was born, 3-4 times a day, sometimes probably 10 or 15. I was ADHD. They didn't know what that was back then. They just thought you were a bad kid. So you can understand why my mother prayed so much. I put her through hell on earth sometimes, but I was just one of these kids that just couldn't sit still. My mother prayed for me so much, and she said to all of us all the time, she says, you will never go to hell when you die. Never. Because God promised me that if I pray for you every day and I lead you in the ways of the Lord, that you will go to heaven. I did not know how much truth there was to that. Because when she believed that God made her that promise and that God guaranteed her that that wouldn't happen, it's true. I was released. I get to heaven. This great big angel standing there. And as horrible as it was in hell, it was that much different and so euphoric and beautiful smelling. Heaven smells beautiful. Not like perfumes that people wear. It's just beautiful. And it's great. And it's grand. And there's light everywhere. There's no shadow. No shadow. You know, like when you know how when you get up underneath a tree and you enjoy that shadow? There's none. And all the leaves are the exact same color all the way through. Top, bottom, everything. Everything that you look at, the colors in heaven are unreal. Heaven's beautiful. It's great. It's wonderful. And I got to see these big buildings. They're made out of stone. Kind of like white marble, but like diamonds are on it. I don't know. It just glistens really great. It's beautiful. There are streets of gold. Well, they look like gold, but when you step on it, it's nice and soft, so it's probably pure gold. I don't know. But it's just really neat. And I could talk about heaven all day long, and you can read people's books and encounters that people have in heaven. It's great, but I had a little different experience when I went to heaven. Because, see, I wasn't allowed to be in there by myself. I had to hold that angel's hand because I had to come back to earth and get my life right with God before I could go up there and stay. So I knew before it started that I wasn't allowed to stay there. I knew I had to come back. And it was like, that's the worst thing. I'm rejected from hell, and I'm going to be rejected from heaven. I have rejection issues. So this is happening, and I'm being shown all these wonderful things. Just so many beautiful things up there in heaven. You just can't believe how nice it is. I got to see people. Let me tell you what I saw. One of the most exciting things that I saw up there. Every aborted, miscarried child that's ever anything's ever happened to, they're in heaven. And guess what? They're waiting for you if you did anything. So let me talk about, if it was a miscarriage, they're waiting for you, mom and dad. If it's an abortion, they're waiting for you, mom and dad. So what's that mean? That means that Jesus will forgive you if you did that. Because your children are waiting for you. They're there. They're waiting. If anything's ever happened, women, they're there. Don't worry about it. They're waiting for you. When you get there, you get to see them. I watched that. That was like really cool. Because the mom had no idea. And she's like, oh, man. I'm almost going to cry, okay? Because that was like something you just can't believe what that's like. Because you talk about the love of God to allow something like that to happen. I saw all kinds of things. I really am. I saw all kinds of things. And then the angel said, turn and look. And he's holding my hand. And naturally, I'm thinking, okay, he says, turn and look. He's holding my hand. I better turn this way and look. So I went to turn to my left. Angel says, no, towards me. As I turned and looked at the angel, he disappeared. He still had my hand, but he disappeared. And I saw a timeline. What I mean by a timeline is I got to see how the earth was formed, the universe, way into the future. I got to watch what happened. I got to watch as the Spirit of God came down and moved over the waters of the deep. Let me explain something to you. He wasn't there for like 10, 15 seconds and took off. He wasn't there for like 24 hours and left. He stayed on there for a long time. You know why he did that? Because he was preparing the earth for us. He was preparing it for Adam and Eve. He was getting it ready They can find water any place they want to. In outer space, it will not have living organisms in it like it does here. Where's the first place life was at on earth? In the water. Even the people, crazy Darwin people, say, hey, y'all are a bunch of fish and you came out of the water because there was life there first. They'll even agree that the whole world was covered with water. Twice. So this is what happened. I watched that happen. I watched as he spoke, let there be light. Poof. I watched as God started spinning the earth so he could separate the day from the night. I watched all these things happen. I watched as he created Adam. And Adam is sitting there, and he goes up to his nostrils, and he just... And Adam's... The Spirit is in Adam. It wasn't air that he put in there. Gave him the Spirit. You see, if you read in Genesis 1:26, it says, let us, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, let us make man in our image. That would have been great. But then he said, and in our likeness. We're made like him. We have a spirit. I could go in a lot of details, but Adam and Eve were made to last forever. They weren't made to last for 1,000 years or whatever. They were made to last forever, and I'll talk about that some other time. But I watched that happen. I watched David kill Goliath. I watched all types of things. I watched Samson. I watched Daniel. I saw people that they don't even have in the Bible. Things that happened. Yeah, there were actually things that happened that weren't in the Bible, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about that because it's not relevant. But, there's things that happen. I watched Jesus being crucified. I watched as they whipped him. Now, I'll back up for a second. My father was a very angry man. I want to show you something. See my hand? It's not, like I got like a couple of fingers and a half of one and a half a thumb or whatever. It's the way I was born, arms bent, crooked. That's why I took martial arts, because kids made fun of me, so I had to learn how to protect myself. So I was born like this. My father hated the fact that my mother gave me my father's name, Ivan, before he got to the hospital. And he was mad because my dad was a perfectionist, and he doesn't make anything unless it's perfect. So my father, at a young age, hated everything about me. He was a bricklayer. He was very strong. When he would beat me as a child, he'd take the belt off to beat me, and he was so big and so strong, that belt broke the bones in my back. Broke them. I didn't know that my bones were broken in my back until I went and had a chest x-ray at 21 years of age, because I thought I had pneumonia. And they asked me if I had been in a real bad car accident when I was younger. And I said, no. They said, every rib in your back is broken. You got these marks that seem to be on your... I said, oh, that's when my dad beat me with a belt. My dad used a belt buckle on me one time, too. So I know what it's like to feel pain. I know what it's like to be beat, but I want to tell you something. What I went through was nothing compared to what Jesus went through. If you could see what it was like, he didn't scream. He didn't holler. Every time they hit him and they ripped his flesh out, he would just go, mm. It's like he wouldn't give them the pleasure of hearing it. He felt it. It wasn't that he was supernatural and he didn't feel it, because there's some people out there that preach, oh yeah, Jesus didn't feel that. He just laid there. He felt it. I saw it. I watched what happened. I watched when they put those not too sharp nails in his hands and in his feet. I watched these things happen. I watched when he rose again. Let me explain, because you guys are going, okay, he was only dead for 3 hours. How do you see all this? A day is like 1,000 years. I was dead for 3 hours. Do the math. That comes out to about 44 years. I mean, that's the experience that you get. So I saw this. And then I saw things happening on the earth after. I saw Peter when he walked on the earth and the glory that was on him after Jesus had left. And they had to go to the upper room because, see, if you don't get filled with the Holy Spirit, you don't have the power. The only reason why they could do what they did when Jesus walked the earth is because he was here. And anything that, while he was here, it could happen through the people he designated it to happen with. And he set it up with the disciples and other disciples and allowed them to do it. But when he left, he didn't want them to do anything. He said, go and wait for power from on high. So you had to get that. I watched this. I watched the things that happened. I got to see all these things. I couldn't write everything like that in my book. There's way too much to write. But I saw Peter, even when it wasn't at a meeting, I saw Peter when he wakes up in the morning and he's going to go, he has to get water because the place he slept at didn't have water right there. So I had to walk through this little section of the town to get water. And early in the morning when the sun is just coming up, you know, it makes your shadow real long. And Peter's shadow touched somebody that couldn't see. And all of a sudden they could see. And before he got to where he was going to get that little drink of water, his shadow also touched somebody that had legs that were all twisted and gnarled up. And the legs started straightening up, and the person stood up and started to walk. You see, I'm going to explain this to you real quick. I saw into the future too, and guess what? People in this room are going to be walking in that same glory. It's coming very soon. It's being released this year on the earth, and you're a part of it. I watched these things happen. I saw things in the future. Now you got to remember back then, the best phone had a long cord. And then I see people walking around with these things, talking, and I see people with a little thing in their ear, and I'm like, what is that? But then there's something even in the future that's real small, it fits inside your ear. You can't even see it. And you can push on your ear to make it work, or you can just say it out loud, and it'll call whoever, it'll do whatever you need to have done. It's coming. Watch. In a few years, you'll see it. There's other things. I saw these big holes opening up on the earth in Russia. I have no explanation for it. Huge, gigantic holes, bigger than their property here. Just huge. I started writing my book in 2013. I self-published it. It used to be called Entrapment. When Sid Roth got a hold of the book, he says, we're going to change the name, and I want you to do this. He says, I'm going to be your publisher. Him and Destiny, so they took it over. But when I started writing the book, I was like, okay, Lord, why do you want me to write that? And God says, I want people to see things physically so that they'll know that what you're telling them spiritually is going to line up too. So in April of 2014, my self-published book was out. It was also, I had somebody from Korea that saw my Facebook post about doing the book. They said, can we have your manuscript? I was very not knowledgeable about writing, and I didn't know what a manuscript was. And I said, what is that? He says, it's your book that you're writing. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll send it to you. Because he's a guy that does translations in the Korean language. So by the end of May, he had it translated in the Korean language, and I had a publisher over there, and it went to #1 best-selling book in Korea. In South Korea. By the way, South Korea is 40% Christian. People don't know that. They always think it's some pagan place, but it's not. I wrote my book. I wrote about these holes. In July of 2014, several months after the book came out, scientists started finding these big holes opening up in the earth in Russia. Great big ones. Huge holes. They can't explain it. Well, it must be methane gas coming up. I don't know. They don't have any explanation for why those holes are there. There's a program called One on Earth by Discovery Channel that went out there and flew helicopters over it, and they looked at it, and they're trying to figure out what caused these holes. They don't know. Do you know what the Russians call the area where these holes are at in Siberia? They call it the end of the world. You see, there's more than one sign indicating that. You can watch the program. They'll tell you the same thing on that program. It's called The End of the World. That's what they call it. So I wrote this before any of this came out. There's a lot of other things I wrote about. I wrote about political climates, things that are going to happen. And see, it's not really political, it's God. And you're going to see things coming up that's going to be unbelievable that you're going to see happen. Don't look at what's here right now. Look at what's coming. Because if all you're doing is going like this, what's here, you can't see what's coming. You got to look in the future and be prepared. So I'm being shown these things. I'm being given gifts. I'm being told all this stuff that I'm going to have. And then this angel says, I got to send you back, which I did not want to go. But the alternative was I had to go back to the first place. So I was willing to go home. Because hell was not a place I want to go to. This angel said, okay, you cannot speak about this to anyone. You can say you died, which they'll know anyways. You went to hell, heaven, and came back. But you can't give them the experience until you're told to. It wasn't until August 17th, 2013 that I was told to do something. Now, I told you earlier I was ADHD. Do you know how hard it is to write a book? 3 sentences is difficult. Yeah, even as an adult, okay? Okay, so I don't move around physically like I used to, but mentally it doesn't stop. I used to write TV commercials. That was real easy to do because it's like, oh yeah, that thought, okay. It like take me a week to write a half a page, like a paragraph. Commercials go by quick. But to write a book, and God said, don't worry. He says, I know the author of the best-selling book. I'll give you some help. And it just took me 2 months to write it. And I don't know how to type either, okay? I joke around and tell everybody, I type shorthand. Come on, you can laugh. It's okay. So I learned how to do that. And I typed and I got it out. But I'm in heaven and he's going to send me back. And I was told I have a generational sin I have to break off. Well, excuse me, a generational curse I have to break off. So I was sent back. Now, I watched as I was coming back into my body. It's like they stopped me at the ceiling to see what was going on. Now, back then, we just called them ambulance drivers. I don't know, they call them paramedics or something now, or medics or whatever. But these guys were there in the apartment, and this girl is there like, ah, you know, she found me dead. I can't scream like that, but she was just constant. And they're like, shut her up. You know, I mean, like I'm grayish blue, starting to get, literally starting to have blood coagulate in my joints. So a little teeny bit stiff. I wasn't like total rigor mortis where, you know, it was like, it was just hard to move. It was like I was trying to fight back, but I'm really not, you know. And the guy came in there, and he checked up under here real quick. He just came in there, saw me. I'm laying on my side, went like this. Turned around, looked at the other. It was a shorter, heavier set guy. Turned around, looked at the tall, thin guy, like, and they walked out of the room. They're calling the morgue. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm right here. And this girl's screaming, and they're shoving her out of the room, and they're trying to get her. She's out in the living room, just, you know, just everything. And so the taller guy looks at the other guy, and he says, hey, you might want to see if he got shot or stabbed or something. We don't know what's going on here. While he was getting ready to call the morgue. So he comes back in there to check me. And about that time, as he went to touch me to kind of see if I was bleeding anywhere, I came back in my body. Now, I scared him to death. I scared me to life. Because when I came back in my body, I couldn't breathe. And I'm like, and I'm shaking, and my body is vibrating. I mean, it felt like somebody hit me with 440 volts or something. It's like worse than an electric fence. And I'm like, and I'm just like, and I was, and the guy's like looking at me, and he's like, whoa. And I mean, he fell backwards because it scared him. See, I was dead. You don't do that. I mean, you might, sometimes when you die, you still have air in your lungs or something, and you might go, happens in the morgue a lot. And when you're brand new there, I understand it scares you. But that's not what happened. And I'm trying to move. Now, I want to explain something to you. After 3 hours, it takes a little while to get everything to work again. Arms, hands, mouth, brain. And I'm going to be real blunt here for just a minute. When you die, it's kind of embarrassing because you have no control of the lower half. So I was like, okay, missed myself, you know. It happens when you die. So I'm like, and I all of a sudden was like, oh, yeah. I can't talk, and they're trying to talk to me, and I'm just, they're like, well, okay, sir, now don't move. And I'm like, no. That's all I could get was no. We got to take you to the hospital. No. We have to do this. No. After a few minutes, finally, after about 5 minutes or so, I finally got them both in the room there to try to help me get up out of that waterbed. Look, waterbeds were hard enough to get out of when you're fine. But when your body doesn't want to work, so I'm trying. I had this bed rail thing there that they were padded on the side. And they're trying to help me, and I'm like getting up, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm standing, and my legs don't know how to work right. And I'm trying to walk, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, no. And they're trying to bring the gurney thing. And I said, no. That's the only thing I could get out. And finally, I started getting other words. They weren't bad words. I just got other words. And I was trying to get them out of my apartment because, see, that side business that I had was in my closet. I had about 25 pounds of pot and a whole bunch of kilos in my closet, a walk-in closet. Oh, it was hidden, right. But I wanted them out of my apartment because, see, I just went through something and I had to make things right with God. And I didn't want anybody there. Now, in my head, I'm going, God, forgive me of all my sins. Thank you. Help me. I'm trying to walk, you know, and I'm trying to talk. And I'm trying to tell them. Finally, I could get to a little bit of speed where I could go more than a couple inches. You know, I look like those people that, you know, you take something away from them and they can't walk, you know. But it was really tough. But I got there, and finally I started to actually take steps. And my brain's functioning better. My mouth is finally working. Really, it's almost like you get oil to work, you know, like the Tin Man, you know. It's just trying to get able to work, to get anything to work. I finally got it to work, and I get him out of the apartment. And the girl, she was the last one. She's like, don't touch me. You know, this is before the zombie movies. She thought he's dead. I don't know. Don't touch me. You know, I'm just like, come on, you got to go. You know, trying to get her to take her purse, take her jacket, you know. And I shove her out the door because I know what's coming, the police. Because when somebody dies, the police are notified. And lo and behold, a few seconds after I got her out, there's that. It's the police. Yeah? I understand somebody died here? Nope. I'm not dead. I wouldn't open the door. I had a basement apartment, and I picked that basement apartment because it was very secure. And back then, they didn't have egress. So they had little windows, and I knew the cops couldn't come in through them. And I really didn't care what it looked like. I was a bachelor. I had a bed, a chair, a stereo system, and a TV. I was set. I wouldn't open the door. Finally, after about 5 minutes or so, he finally left. And I went into my closet. And I got the stuff that was in the closet out because I'm getting rid of it. I need to turn my life over to God. So I started flushing all the drugs. Marijuana does not flush. It floats. So you're laughing. So you have to get toilet paper and put it on it and get it wet to make it flush. 25 pounds is a lot to flush. Used a plunger, it works real good. Then I had a few kilos of Coke. It flushed much better. I got rid of everything. Dumped the beer and whatever else was in there. Got rid of everything. Then I had something, this is not, in 1978 this happened in, so you'll understand this. I had an avocado green rocking chair with that low back on it, you know. Had that little green fringe all the way around it. Or no, it was gold fringe on the avocado green rocker. That's right, it was gold. And I sat in that rocking chair, and I rocked all night, crying my eyes out. Crying like a baby. I had so much snot, I went through several rolls of toilet paper. Remember, I was a bachelor. I didn't buy Kleenex. I just had toilet paper. And I went through so much of it. It was just piled up. I didn't care. I cried like a baby because I got a chance to come back. I got a chance to make my life right. All I could think about is all the love I had as a child for God. How I messed up. I broke off that generational curse of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. You cannot get rid of it. And I have, case in point, sat and talked to a man, a doctor, that's all he does is people that have that disease. He puts pacemakers in them, does ablations and all that stuff. Just, what was it, yesterday? He's like, well, you still should get checked out. I just did. Well, was he this kind of doctor? Yes, he was. He found nothing. I'm curious, what's your uptake? I don't know. I don't have it anymore. I'm a walking, talking, living miracle. Forget about the fact I was dead for 3 hours and came back. My heart is new. My son wasn't born till after this experience, so he doesn't have it either. It got broke. It's not there. When they did my test on my heart last June, they looked at it, the cardiologist, and that's why this other cardiologist was like, well, I don't know about that. He says, you don't need a cardiologist, don't go see one. No sense in doing it. And he's from Vanderbilt, so he knows what he's doing. Vanderbilt's a real good medical school, hospital. And he's saying, even this doctor is from India. He's like, well, I was trying to tell him about God, that I was dead and everything, you know. And I mean, they've seen crazy stuff over there. When I tell him God healed me of this, he said, well, something happened because you don't have it. But it's documented that I had it before because hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, they found the DNA marker in the blood in my family. I had it before. I don't have that marker anymore. We serve a God of miracles. The miracle is not just that I came back to life. The miracle is the fact that God changed me truly. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I'm changed. And some people will say, well, why didn't he heal your hand? There's nothing wrong with my hand. God made me perfect like this. And let me explain to you why. God made me like this so I know what it's like to be made fun of. He made me like this so I know what it's like when somebody's prejudiced against you. I know what it's like when people make fun of you and won't let you play with them or be a part of their group or anything. It taught me a compassion that I might not have had this hand been like this hand. And believe me, if you ever have to get in a fight with me, this is the hand you have to worry about. Because it cuts deeply. Rips cheekbones open. But I'm telling you, God made me like this. I'm perfect in his eyes. And so are you. If anybody in here feels like, you know, God just doesn't love me, he doesn't want me, yeah, he does. He made you perfect the way you are. I don't have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the thing that could take my life at a young age. God's going to let me live to be an old person. I'll be 70 in a couple of months, but I don't feel 70. When they examined my heart, the doctor said, you don't need a cardiologist. And he says, I'm not saying you won't drop dead tomorrow from something, but right now your heart's that of somebody in their 30s to maybe early 40s. You know, the blood, whatever stuff is whatever, everything's normal. You don't need aspirin therapy. You don't need anything. Don't have a fear of blood clots. So he's telling me all this. This doctor is telling me all these things that I don't need. Try to open this. I need a drink. That I need. We serve a God that's so merciful, so wonderful, so great. These are the last days. Now, what I mean by that, by the last days, is the disciples said these are the last days too. We're just a couple thousand years closer. They could happen tomorrow. They could happen 1,000 years from now or 100 years from now. I just know that I saw a lot of things in the future and it hasn't come yet. Don't believe anybody that tells you that Jesus is coming in such and such a date, such and such a time. Because if our Father wouldn't even tell the Son, why would he let that person know? Yeah, you can see the signs that are in the Word of God that says when the end times are coming, but God could delay that for however long he wants to, because guess what? We haven't done our part yet. I can tell you that the particular church that I was raised in, the religion I was raised in, all they talked about was the rapture. I was afraid as a little kid to even move out of my seat, because I was petrified the rapture would happen 10 seconds later and I'd be left. Don't live in fear. Learn about the love. Learn about what the love is like. He loves us so much, he sent his Son to die for us before we even thought of, before anything ever happened. He did that so that we could live. Jesus died for each and every one of us. We're able to live. We're able to have something inside of us. And now that there's a glory that's being released, I don't know if anybody told you about what's happening later tonight, but I'm going to be at a particular place tonight. God gave me a mandate to release the glory, the latter day glory. It's a glory that they had on the earth. And that's going to happen here in the Amarillo area. The reason why it's happening here is you guys do the Amarillo starts with an A, right? It's our alphabet. We're going to go through the alphabet. God is ready to do some things. And you can be a part of that, or you can stay lukewarm. I want you to hear what I'm saying. You can be a part of that, or you can remain lukewarm. Now, don't get mad at me. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. You either move in signs and wonders and miracles on the earth, or you're lukewarm. There's no reason in the world why you can't walk up to somebody and they get healed by your presence being on them, because the glory of God is so strong on you that the person knows that something's happening. There's no reason why you can't go up and lay hands on somebody and they get healed instantly. There's no reason why you can't cast out any demon that comes on this earth whatsoever, because you have the power and the authority to do that inside of you. You can do those things. This isn't for me to do or for him to do. It's for you to do. This is your glory. This is the glory that God is putting out on you. You're the ones that are going to have it. You're the ones that are going to take it. You're not too young and you're not too old to do it. This is the time where there's greater glory when it comes, and it's going to fall on you, and it's going to be a part of your life. You're going to feel it. You're going to walk in it. You're going to talk it. You're going to have something inside of you that when you walk into places, people are going to go, who are you? They want to know. You'll sit down next to somebody on an airplane, and they'll be like looking at you like something's wrong. And they want to know, who are you? It's not who you are. It's who's inside of you. And if you can't walk and talk and live the glory of God, then what are you doing here? You're not supposed to come here to hear a sermon and just go home and live life normal. You're supposed to get this, you're supposed to come and you're supposed to take it, and you're supposed to distribute it throughout the earth. They grew by 3,500 people a day. Why did they do that? Because the glory of God was on them so strong, they had to share it with everybody, and they went out and they laid hands on the sick. They got healed. They cast out demons. People don't want to come and hear a beautiful sermon. They want to come and get the glory of God. Why do you think the young people are into all those stupid video games? Why do you think they go to seances? Why do you think they're going to all this dumb junk that's out there? They're seeking the supernatural, and you have it. You have the real supernatural that they're looking for. Everything else is a fake. It's a fake. It's a fraud. You have this ability. You get to do it. You get to take it. You get to run with it. You get to do it. You do. You're allowed to do that. This is the time of life on earth where we're going to run with that. It's your time to have this, to take off and to do something. Everybody, if you believe in God, you've been filled with the Holy Spirit, you believe that Jesus died on the cross to forgive you of your sins, you will prophesy. It didn't say that you might. It didn't say that you can. It said that you will prophesy and you will say things. Yes, do I get excited? Because I know what's coming. I know what some of you are going to do. I already know. I've seen it. And I'll tell you just what I told the people last night. I've already been here. I saw it. I've already been here. God planned this out ahead of time. This is a divine appointment. This is your turn. This is your chance. Don't sit there and think, oh, yeah, whatever.